stop streaming.
Okay. Is the recording going?
It says stop recording.
You could stop and then start again if you're not sure.
You will not be able to reconnect your stream, and we'll stop and you'll no longer be live.
Okay, just leave it. It's good.
Okay, so it's going.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, we are on location in Prince George with Tracey Johnson today. Tracey Johnson is an international food cheese judge. You know what? I'm going to introduce Tracey because she has a lot of titles behind her name. Tracey, great to have you on the show. I don't want to botch this and give out the wrong information. I know you're a judge. You're a cheese competition judge.
Yep.
Let's start with that. Let's start with that as the title. What else are you?
So the cheese judging thing has been a bucket list thing for me for a very long time. It is a mark of respect in the industry that people know that you'll know what you're doing, that you know what things are supposed to taste like. And a cheese that's supposed to be a cheddar presents like a cheddar, and a cheese that's supposed to be blue presents blue, but you don't get blue on a cheese that shouldn't be. So knowing all the different categories of cheese and stuff is really important to the work to be able to taste properly. I am a certified cheese professional, which is abbreviated to CCP because it's far too long to keep saying it, which basically means I know a lot about the cheese industry. I know a lot about making and selling cheese. Although I've never actually sold a piece of cheese, I'm not a monger. That's a separate profession and one that I do not aspire to. I have a lot of respect for mongers, but I couldn't do that job. It's physically too demanding, like lifting up a 72-pound wheel of cheese and cutting it in half in a way that's theatrical enough for the customers. No, not my lane. My lane's over here. I like making the cheese, I like making cheesemakers, and I like helping people enjoy cheese. And that's basically, as you say, I've got a lot of titles. My main title is Cheese Enabler.
Cheese Enabler. I like that.
Cheese Enabler. It's nice and easy. It's 2 words, you know. I am studying for the American Cheese Society Certified Cheese Sensory Evaluator, which basically means, again, you blind taste 12 cheeses, determine what they are, if they are to type, and then you blind smell 10 different adulterations. So things like garlic, things like clover, Band-Aid could feature, I know. But you know what that smell is. You instantly know what that smell is when I say that. So it's 50 or 60 different categories, and it could be any one of these things, and you have to be able to smell it. So being able to sensorily evaluate those things is something you can train for, and I have been for the last 4 years now. So.
Wow. Does that also go by texture and taste, or just the smell?
Yeah, there is the single attributes, they call it, because they've taken milk and they've put something in it. The single attributes are, it's just one thing, whereas the 12 cheeses, you get, 12 cheeses in flights of 3, and you have to identify them and then judge them as if they were in blind competition. So as if you were judging at the American Cheese Society, judging in competition every year, which I would love to do. That's still on my bucket list. World Cheese Awards and American Cheese Society is still on my bucket list for judging, but I'll get there.
Oh yeah, right on. For Cheese Enabler, you're definitely a cheese enabler because you've enabled me. I believe I met you probably 3 years ago. You were doing a show, like a trade show type thing, and you were selling the ingredients to make cheese. And shortly after that, I did your feta course, and I made a gigantic chunk of feta, which was amazing because I brought it home. It took, I think, 2 days after that to set and everything, putting the salt on it, babying it, taking good care of it. And then, I just couldn't wait to dig into that. And when it was done, I was shocked that it was like real feta. I thought, you make your wine at home and it's not quite the same as wine you buy. And I thought it was kind of going to be kind of like a craft thing, sort of like that. But this was like real feta, and it was really, really good. It was like bang on.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
It's almost like real cheese. No, it is real cheese. You know, that
Yeah.
what they have been doing in farmhouses and monasteries for 9,000 years is exactly the same as what you were doing in your kitchen on a gas stove. Or when, you know, sometimes I work at the local historical reenactment place, Hubble Homestead. I'm standing there with a gas barbecue in a tent in a field, no running water, no electricity, dressed as a Puritan. And I can still bang out 2 batches of feta in one day.
You do that for real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
6-7 times a year. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's great fun out there.
Yeah. So if you're making cheese out there, you don't get to eat it for a couple days after.
Nope.
So do you have stuff that's already made? So after they watch you make it, you can go, I made this 2 days ago. We can try it.
I'm not allowed to give cheese to people. If I've made cheese at home, I'm not allowed to give it to members of the public because the government of Canada doesn't know if I know what I'm doing. So from a food safety point of view, if I'm representing my business or myself, I'm not allowed to give homemade cheese to members of the public. I can bring store-bought cheese and feed that to members of the public because I'm food safe on 3 different continents. But I can't bring homemade cheese. And if I'm making cheese, by the time I get to the end of the day, the first batch, if I salt it early enough, you can taste it. You could taste it. I'm not allowed to give it to people.
Oh boy. Even though you've got all those titles behind your name, you probably know more than the person who made that rule.
I don't want to point any fingers,
Yeah,
but
okay.
yeah,
Oh,
the
we
red
won't point.
tape in BC regarding dairy is horrendous. I mean, you know, raw milk is illegal here. You know, the most natural product available on the planet. All of us drank milk as babies to start with, you know.
Oh yeah.
And raw milk is illegal. The government can sell you weed, but I can't give you raw milk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll have raw milk dispensaries on every corner. You never know.
I doubt it. There is a movement to try and get that to happen. The thing that makes me crazy is you go into a liquor store and there are signs up saying, you know, this stuff is poisonous. Don't drink too much of it. Why can't we have that for raw milk? This could be dangerous. Use it at your discretion,
Yeah.
you know. But rather than legislate it and then have to follow up, they just ban it outright. So, okay.
Who knows?
Oh, Canada.
Yeah. But at least then there's people like you who are helping us make our own cheese. And so the feta course is the only one that I've done. What other cheeses do you teach people to make?
So feta is the gateway. It's the beginner cheese. It's the best one to take as a beginner. The next one I recommend after that is cheddar, because to get to cheddar, you go through cottage cheese, you go through poutine curds, and then you get to cheddar. It's all the same cheese. It's all the same process. Like you stop here, you've got cottage cheese. You carry on to here, you've got poutine curds. Every single time I teach that class, somebody will message me afterwards and say, yeah, I didn't make it home. Ate it on the way. Every single time.
Really?
But yeah, when you come to class, as you know, you bring home everything you need to make another 24 pounds of cheese at home, so you can back up another batch. It's fine.
Yeah. So cheddar is that quick of a turnaround?
Cheddar, as a cheddar, no, you've got to wait 3 months to eat it. But if you want to eat it on the day, you can eat it as poutine curds. Cheddar has this weird thing with the cultures, the way that there are 2 different cultures involved. So the first culture, the mesophilic, works straight away, and that changes the pH of the milk, and that affects the flavor. But the thermophilic doesn't kick in until much later in the process, like 5 or 6 days later. So up until day 4, you can eat it fresh as a cheese curd. It will be squeaky for the first 2 days. From day 5, 6-ish, it starts to taste real bad, and you're not going to want to eat it for the next 2 months.
Really?
Because that's when that other culture is kicking in, and it's changing the long-chain fatty acids. It's changing the way that those flavor compounds are formed in the cheese. Even after you've salted it, even after it's in the refrigerator, it's still changing, it's still aging. So it develops its flavor, and it tastes really, really good, then it tastes bad, and then it tastes really, really good.
So hopefully nobody's slowly every day cutting a slice off because they just can't wait for it, and then they hit that day where it doesn't taste right.
There are different cheeses for that. If you want a cheese that's ready the next day, then try yesterday's. I invented this cheese because cheese just takes too damn long.
Yeah.
You want cheddar, Gouda, all of these cheeses, they take 3 months minimum. If you want a good one, they can take up to a year You know, Parmesan takes a year minimum. So, yeah. So I'm making cheeses now. I'm doing cheese classes now, Parmesan for Christmas. But it's not for this Christmas. It's for next Christmas. You know, yesterday's is ready the day after, hence the name yesterday's. It's yesterday's cheese.
Yeah.
So you can make it, brine it, make it, press it, brine it, and then you can eat it straight away.
Is this the cheese that you were told was impossible to make? Yeah?
Yeah,
did
I've
that go?
discussed this with my tutor at University of Guelph, which is the best dairy science program in Canada. I studied the cheesemaker certificate with them, which is a 2-year program. I got straight A's for the first time in my life. It was wonderful. If I'd known that studying cheese would be where I would excel, I could have done this years ago, you know. But yeah, I discussed this cheese with the dairy manager there, and he said, no, this won't work. You're crazy, kind of, you know, get back in your chair kind of thing. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, maybe just try it, because hundreds of people all around the world have made this cheese now. It's been featured by Gavin Weber, who is the YouTube cheesemaker, pretty much. He has over 300,000 followers, and he has, with my permission, done a copy of my yesterday's cheese. It also features in Lisa Peterson's book. Again, with my permission, they're good friends of mine. So I'm quite happy to share, you know.
Yeah.
And the next time I went back to Guelph, about 3 months after, the dairy guy came up to me, and he looked at me, and he got real close, and he whispered at me, "You're a witch." It shouldn't work. The process is different to the way that normal cheese is made. You know, if you remember in class, we added the culture, we waited. We added the rennet, we waited. We cut, we stirred, we drained, we smooshed all the way out, and that was the cheese done. Yesterday's is a different ball game. You add the culture, you don't wait. You add the rennet at the same time. So there is no pH change from the culture until you're in the renneting stage, and the rennet changes the way that the pH changes after the culture is added. And then you hold it for an hour, then you cut it, but you don't stir it. But you then hold it for an hour and a half. At temperature, just leave it be. The whey starts to seep out, and during that process, that's when you get your pH curve. That's when the pH dips down. It doesn't dip far enough down for this to be a long-aged cheese. You can't keep it for 6 months or whatever. You know, it's a 2-week cheese. But that's what I designed it for. I designed it to be made one day, eaten the next day, or eaten in the next week. And you keep it in your regular fridge, and just... In Europe, we have what we call table cheeses. There is always cheese on the table, normally under a little glass dome that your kids always forget to put back on after they've taken a piece of cheese. There's a knife right there. You hack off a piece. You wander around and do what you're doing. It's how we snack. And there isn't that kind of thing here, because we keep our houses a lot warmer here than we do in Europe, because it's a lot colder outside here than it is certainly in southern England. You know, we don't get down to the temperatures that we have here in PG. So table cheese doesn't really exist. So this is kind of every time you open the fridge, snacking cheese. Kind of, it's there while you're looking for what you really want to eat.
Right, right. So this yesterday's cheese then, you made it, it was your own experiment then. Do you have the knowledge to know how these rennet and cultures are going to interact enough that you knew that this was going to work? Or
I do now. When I invented the recipe, it was literally trial and error. It was a case of, I know how cheese is made. I know the order in which things are supposed to be done, but what if we mess around with those? What happens if? And I keep really good notes. And there were 40 or 50 batches that weren't right. It wasn't bad, it didn't fail, you know, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do. So I kept tweaking it until I got to the recipe as it stands now.
wow.
And yeah, just keep good notes.
Yeah.
You know.
What kind of tweaks are you talking about after 50
Things
batches?
like, do you hold it for an hour after cutting or an hour and a half? An hour isn't long enough, the culture doesn't do its job. Testing the pH reveals that it's not going to move the pH into a safe range for long-term cheese. So I don't want to put out a recipe that's not going to be safe. So this recipe, originally, was an ageable cheese, and I've learnt now enough to know that that's probably not an ideal use of this cheese. It should be one and done. It's a quick, easy, beginner-friendly starter cheese. It's very mild. It's kid-friendly as well, because some cheeses are a little aggressive, and you know, children don't relish that really strong, aggressive flavor profile.
Yeah, I do like those strong, aggressive ones, but I do have a limit. With some of the blue cheeses are a little too much for me.
Yeah.
But I really do like a good blue cheese, for sure.
What's your favorite?
I have no idea. I thought there was only one.
In this town, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that's on the burger at Red Robin.
Right.
That's all I know.
Yeah, I think they use a Stilton.
Oh, okay.
Stilton is generally too aggressive for me. Stilton kind of, it's almost like it reaches out of your mouth and it grabs you by the throat. It's too tinny. It tastes like licking aluminium for me.
Okay.
And I don't love that flavor profile. So I like the higher moisture blues. With blues, you get moisture levels. You get a medium moisture level, or you get a high moisture level. Basically, it just means they've left more whey in the cheese when they made it. So that the blue is either fudgy and spreadable and more gentle on the palate, or if it's really, really dry, it tends to be more metallic, more tinnic, and more stronger blue flavor, more aggressive.
Okay.
So if you're easing into the blues, go with something like a Saint Agur. That's my favorite blue, because it's virtually spreadable.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's nice, yeah. What is your cheese, your yesterday's cheese? What's the texture and taste like?
It's a hard, grateable, sliceable, meltable on day 1 and 2, but not afterwards. Because again, the pH changes, and that's vital for melting in cheese. And it's kind of mild like a Gouda.
Okay, Gouda. That's
But
a good
like a
one.
young
Yeah.
Gouda. It's from yesterday. It's not going to taste like a 6-month-old cheese. You know, I can do good things, but I can't do miracles.
Well, I mean, feta is delicious, and you could have it after a couple of days. So, yeah. I think with feta, it's the saltiness of it that makes it so good, right? If you like salt, you're gonna love the feta.
Yeah, I mean, feta itself, generally in Greece and the areas where they make feta, it's not actually used as a table cheese, as an eating cheese. It's used to flavor other things. It's used as salt, you know, to bring that salt flavor into cooking. So they crumble it into things, and it then provides that level of salt, which is why, you know, feta is salted to about 3 times as much as your average cheddar.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of cheddar, I know this is one of the things you love most about cheddar in Canada is that bright orange color that it has. Right? We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tell everybody, let's get right down to it. What makes the cheddar in Canada orange?
It all stems back from a historical con job. Basically, if you have a pure breed cow, it will give you 6 or 7% butter fat in the milk. So when you milk that, it will split. Maybe you'll remember cream top milk, you know, where the cream sits at the top, it's not homogenized. You could then skim that cream off and make butter with it, which your average farmhouse wife was doing. What was left of the milk was then around 2-3% fat, which is what we today would call whole milk, which is laughable. But that would be what you would then use to make the cheese with. Some cheeses in the UK are protected designation of origin, and some of those laws specifically relate to the amount of butter fat that you can have in that cheese, or that you must have in that cheese. So single Gloucester, for instance, is much lower fat than double Gloucester because it has double the amount of cream in it. That is actually mandated by law. So people who had a hybrid cow would sell their milk at market and get a better price than people who had just like a house cow, a mutt, you know, backyard breed kind of thing, because it would give less butter fat. Now, they would actually adulterate the milk, and originally with carrot juice, to make it look more yellowy, so that people thought, hey, this is a hybrid cow and it's got a lot more fat in. I can make butter and I can make cheese with this milk. So it was a con. And then those people went over to America in the 15 and 1600s when the British colonized everywhere and took that with them. And then, the Americans just take everything a little too far. And so instead of having a few drops of colouring, they put a whole lot of colouring in. There is also a story about, I think it was Louis XIV, it may have been Louis XV, in France. He was at war with the Netherlands, and he decided he wasn't going to import Gouda anymore. That was it. We're not buying from them. And he charged the French cheesemakers with design a cheese like Gouda, but you have to make it bright orange, so I know it didn't come from over there. There, Mimolette was born. Mimolette is considered the most dangerous cheese on the planet because
Really?
It's round, like a cannonball, but it's very, very hard on the outside. They actually use cheese mites when they're aging it, and the cheese mites burrow in through the rind, and because they've broken the rind, there's air exchange, and it dehydrates a lot more. So you get this kind of candied cheese effect from Mimolette. If you ever get a chance to try it, it's fabulous. There are no mites left on it. There are no beasties involved. You can't import that cheese to Canada unless it's been vacuumed and then sealed in wax so that there's nothing alive. But it's the way that the moisture level changes the flavour profile. It blows my mind. But it's really, really difficult to cut. So more cheesemongers injure themselves trying to cut into Mimolette than any other cheese.
Oh, they hurt. Okay, that's why it's dangerous.
That's why it's
'cause
dangerous.
They're chiseling it open. They're trying to get.
That's the
into
thing, you
it
can't cut it with a knife because it's round and it's going to move.
Oh yeah.
So, there are specific cutting devices for this. You can use wires on it, but it's really, really tough. So you might break your wire, in which case that's like breaking a guitar string. It can ping and ouch.
Yeah.
So-
So is this one of those cheeses where you just hope to happen to have had one where enough mites have burrowed into the rind that you can?
Well, no,
cut it?
they seed the caves with these things. They keep the caves in a way that the mites thrive. So there are specific caves where they have a population of these mites that are maintained. They allow them on purpose to burrow into the cheese.
Humans are so weird.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
Yeah. Don't ask me about the maggot cheese.
Okay.
Not going to go there.
You sure? You want to tell me a little bit about it?
There is a cheese in Sardinia which is illegal, and again, they allow certain types of fly to lay their larvae in and around the cheese. They encourage, and then the cheese is then sold with live maggots in it. That's a hard no from me.
Yeah. No.
That's a hard no from me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've got to chew well because they can survive your stomach acid, and then they can burrow.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm going to stick with no on that one.
So, as an international cheese judge, if you're judging a cheese and there happens to be like this type of cheese there, you're still going to say no?
I would recuse myself from judging that. Yeah, as a judge, you have discretion. If you recognise a cheese, I was saying to you earlier, one of my friends in the UK learnt in my group and has now won World Cheese Awards, International Cheese and Dairy Awards, and he took the Best Blue in Show at the British and Irish Cheese Awards in March, where I was judging.
Yeah.
You can, if you recognise a cheese, or if you think a cheese doesn't look right, like you choose not to eat it, you can actually choose not to eat it. Mm-hmm. And every competition, things happen, they try and keep the cold chain, they try and keep refrigeration, they try and keep the beasties out, but occasionally something will happen and you'll look at a cheese and be like, I don't think I want to risk that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they don't make you.
Yeah. I guess with you, with that type of knowledge too, you'd pretty well know looking at something if it's safe or not, right?
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, you can't see Listeria, Salmonella, E. coli, all the really things that will make you ill. You can't see that, you can't smell that without a microscope. You're not going to identify that. But most of the cheeses in these competitions, in fact, all the cheeses in the international competitions at least, have to be commercially made. So this is not, little old lady at home in her kitchen. This has to be commercially made to reasonable standards of safety.
Yeah.
So.
Let's talk a little bit about a cheese competition, because I mean, I've only been to like races and, you know, competitions like that. What is a cheese competition like?
Well, basically, it's generally not open to the public to start with. So you all turn up, you all check in. You get like an apron or something that denotes you as a judge, so people know that you're supposed to be there, nibbling on all of these cheeses. You have a trio of judges, so you never judge on your own. You're always discussing the cheese with two other experts. One of you is designated as the scribe, i.e. writing down everything that we said about the cheese, because it's not just a case of, does this cheese win a medal? It's a case of, do we have any feedback for the person who made this cheese that we think they would benefit from knowing? You know, moisture level is too high on this cheese for the type of category that it's in, or this was a good example of this cheese, but on this occasion the smell was an issue. You got marked down on the smell. You know, that kind of thing can help the cheesemaker moving forward. If they vacuum seal the cheese, for instance, and it comes out the other end and it smells of ammonia. As a cheesemaker myself, I know how to fix that. And I'm assuming that the person who's making this cheese at competition level knows how to fix that. But if I give them the note and they hadn't thought of it, or they didn't know it was happening, then they're sending this cheese out and it smells fine. When it gets to the other end, it doesn't smell so fine. So it's feedback for them, as well as, yeah, it's great to win a medal. It's great to be able to say, this is an award-winning cheese.
Okay.
You know, so we mark out of 50 for the British and Irish, and you get 15 points for appearance and texture, and then 25 for taste. And then there's another 10 points, 15 points, my math is off, that you can award or you can withhold. And that's for, oh my goodness, this cheese blew my socks off. You know, this is a gold. Between 45 and 50 points is a gold. Between 35 and 45 is a silver. Anything above 25, you get a bronze. So they encourage us to give as many medals as we can. It's not a case of this whole category can only have 3 winners. Each cheese could achieve gold. And then we have to pick. The hardest part is picking which of the golds goes on to be the super gold. And then you get into the super jury, which I was privileged to be a part of in Bath this year. And you taste the 13 finalists. And there are 6 expert judges with a floating arbiter, shall we say, to be the 7th if there's a deadlock. And we argued a lot about which cheese was going to be number 2. Number 1 was clear. As we tasted each of the cheeses, we were like, okay, that's my number 1 so far. Try this one. Oh, this one's definitely my number 1 now. Yeah, nothing else is touching this one. That one ended up being the winner. We all picked the winner unanimously, straight off the bat. Yeah. Number 2, we fought like cat and dog, because there were 2 really, really, really good lactic set cheeses. Now, lactic set means you don't use too much rennet, if any at all. You set it using just the cultures. So think about like a log of chev, you know, the goat's cheese that you would buy in the supermarket that's been vacuum sealed. These were high examples of a cheese like that. One of them had a bloomy rind on it like a brie, and one of them had an ash coat on it, which is done to control the pH on the surface. And we tested these cheeses to destruction. We actually had to send out for another piece of the second cheese so that we could finish the judging, because we just kept going round and round and round. We couldn't. They were both exemplary. You know, if we could have given 2 second place, then we would have. There isn't a third place, unfortunately. It's literally first or second in that competition. Wow. So, but to get onto the super jury, you're in the best 13 cheeses in the country, yeah. Which, you know, England has a lot of cheeses. I think there were 600 cheeses at that competition. And to get into the final 13 is real, you know what you're doing. That's kudos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about these top 3 cheeses, like the one that you knew for sure won, and then the 2 that you couldn't, it was a hard decision to make. Like, what makes these cheeses so special?
You're testing it not just against the other cheeses there, but you're testing it against type. So the one that won was an Alpine style cheese. Now that would, imply it comes from the Alps. It doesn't. It has to come from Britain or Ireland. Otherwise, it can't be in this competition. It's boundaried. So when I tried, I think it's called Burford. The winner, I think, was called Burford. But when I tried that cheese, if I didn't know for certain that it wasn't Chollehocker, I would have sworn on a stack of Bibles. And Chollehocker is one of my favourite cheeses. It comes from Switzerland, and it is a washed rind, so they wash the outside of the cheese, and that gives it this like funky umami kind of flavour. It's almost like roasted chicken skin. You get that kind of flavour on the outside of this cheese, and it's like they haven't done anything to it. They haven't added anything to it. It's just the bacteria and the cultures that they have in that cave.
Wow.
And it's fantastic. If you ever get a chance to try Chollehocker, go for it, for sure. I have a wedge this big in my fridge right now.
Oh, yeah? How long does it last?
Not long in my house.
Okay.
Every 2 or 3 months, I cross the border or I go somewhere where there is a cheese shop. Coming up next year, actually, I'm really excited. I'm going to be teaching for the Academy of Cheese, which is Britain's foremost educational non-profit regarding cheese. They teach all over the world, and now with me, they're teaching here in Canada as well. So I will be flying into Calgary, Edmonton, Kelowna, Vancouver, maybe Victoria next year sometime, to teach these one-day classes. And at the end of the 8 hours, you've tasted 12 different cheeses. You've learned how cheese is made, a little bit about the background on some of these cheeses, and tasted 6 different wines, which have been professionally curated by a master of wine, because I'm partnering with Fine Vintage in Vancouver, and they teach WSET wine classes. So I'm going to be teaching the cheese, and they're bringing the wine along. So that will be a rough day at work for me.
Yeah, right? An 8-hour day, yeah.
Yeah, well, I get to fly into all these places. I haven't seen a lot of Canada, because when you're an immigrant, normally if you're going on vacation, you go home, you go back to the mother country, The only travelling I've really done in Canada has been for work, so I'm excited that I get to see a bit more of the country.
Yeah, for sure. What's the deal with wine and cheese? Why do they pair together so well?
There's this saying, what grows together goes together. And the people in France, Switzerland, England, they are used to using what's around them, as I'm sure Canadians are as well. They find that the vines grow really well in Bordeaux, and they want something that goes with it. And they have cows, and they make cheese, and it's just one of those things that's kind of developed. Throughout Europe, there are specific pockets where the cheese is really good, the wine is really good, the breads are really good, the sausage is really good. There'll be areas where people who want to get into that trade will move to those areas so they can be around people who know what they're doing. Wow. And that kind of vocational tourism has always happened in Europe, because you can get from where I used to live in Winchester to Paris in an hour on a plane. And it costs less than $100. So, wow. Yeah, I can't get to Vancouver for that kind of money,
Yeah. So Vancouver, like Vancouver, Kelowna, those places where you're going to go teach this, are they better known cheese destinations, or are they just big?
They're foodie. If you're a foodie, I'm also partnering with a guy called Patrick McGuigan, who is a very well-known food writer in the UK, well-known worldwide actually as an educator. And he's going to be teaching in Toronto and New York City. I specifically requested not to be teaching in the States because I'm an immigrant and they don't like immigrants there at the moment. So it's just easier if I stick to my side of the border, which I'm quite happy to do. So all of Western Canada is wide open for me. I can pick where I want to teach, and Fine Vintage have schools in 40 different cities now. So they've already got the infrastructure set up. They've got the organisation with the local college or university to rent the space. They've got people in the area that can turn up and pour the wine professionally, because you can't just give people a whole glass of wine. They have to have like a 2-ounce pour. Otherwise, you're not going to be taking the exam at the end of the day, and you're not going to be driving home. So, yeah, it seems to, cheese and wine, cheese and cider, cheese and anything that makes you feel good, you know, because cheese activates casomorphines, which your brain treats them like morphine. It can actually be addictive, but it also can actually get you mildly high. So,
Really?
Now don't go home and eat a whole bunch of cheese, and then call me up and tell me off because it didn't get you tipsy. But it's been shown to hit the same pleasure centers in the brain that having a good time, playing a sport that you're good at, or drinking alcohol can do. So. I mean, cheese is great. Why wouldn't you want to drink with it?
True enough. Yeah, true enough. And yeah, you're right about the cheese, because that's something that my family, after learning from you, your cheese board making class, right? It turned having just a few slices of cheese and crackers into like something really fun. And whole family kind of sits down now. We put it out, we turn on the TV, we watch a movie, and we just nibble on these pieces of cheese by themselves.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of eating cheese on its own without having a cracker and a pickle and a piece of meat and an oyster on top, right? But yeah, it's breaking off some pieces of Parmesan. And I think this is where like learning from you has been so interesting, because now like I can really appreciate a good piece of Parmesan. And when I go to a restaurant and they're serving it, it's like, oh yeah, that's totally not Reggiano. That's something else.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what it is. And but you just kind of you start developing a little bit of a taste.
Yeah.
A snobbery. Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always reminded of this song from like the early 90s. If I hadn't seen such riches, I could live with being poor. And that's a large part of why I started to make cheese in the first place, because I was raised surrounded by cheese. I wasn't interested. I really wasn't that interested in cheese at home when I was in the UK. I trained in psychology. I'm really good with children and crazy people, which is handy because I work on the internet. So, it's coming very useful. Running the largest Facebook group in the world for home cheesemakers. Yeah. I've seen things, but yeah, when I moved here, obviously when you move to a new country with small children and the dog, you're trying to assimilate, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to make friends, and didn't notice first off that the only cheese was bright orange and it came vacuum sealed in a brick. And eventually I found there's a couple of delis and stuff here in town, and there used to be some speciality shops which are no longer around that import some of these things. And it just got to a point where I'm like, I really just want a decent slice of Caerphilly. And I couldn't get Caerphilly. You can buy it here now. They import it for Save-On. But you just couldn't buy it for love nor money. So I went on the internet, I looked it up, can you make cheese at home? Found out actually it's really quite simple to make cheese at home. I mean, yourself. It's following a bunch of steps in the same way as making a cookie. If you can make a cookie from scratch, you can make cheese. It's not technically that difficult, especially the easier cheeses, the quicker cheeses, So, yeah, it was kind of, this kind of all grew from there, really. So moving to Prince George has given me this obsession and my career, basically, because 4 years ago nearly, I started cheeseneeds.com and started teaching classes. And if you'd have told me 10 years ago I was going to be a teacher, I would have not stopped laughing for like an hour because I've never been interested in teaching. And it's when you find something that you love, you can't shut up about it.
Yeah.
You may have noticed. And so you just, you have this infectious desire to make other people love it as much as you do, So, yeah.
So how did that all come together then? Because if you were in the UK and you weren't interested in cheese and you came to Canada, you still weren't really interested in cheese. What developed that interest?
I think it was a case of if it's always there and you can have it whenever you want it, you don't really want it that much. But if somebody says to you, right, okay, no internet for the rest of the day, or you can't eat this food on your diet, what's the first thing you think about?
Think about that food all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it drives you crazy. So once I realized how easy it was to make, and I find the process of cheese making therapeutic, because you have set times, you have to do the thing when it needs to be done. You can't force it, you can't rush it, and you can't you can massage the timetable a little bit, but really you've got to do the thing when it's expecting it to be done, or it won't work properly. So I like that kind of rigidity. It's therapeutic to me. When I'm making cheese, everyone else can go away. I'm busy.
Yeah.
This is my kitchen now. I'm doing this thing, and I'm going to be here until 5 o'clock. Go away.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But why would you choose to make cheese when you can go to the grocery store and they've got a white one, an orange one, and one with blue in it, and you're pretty much set?
Right. Yes. Yes, you can go to the store and you can buy a cheese which is made in the style of a cheddar. But if you go to Cheddar Gorge in Somerset and you try the cheese that they make there, which is not orange, by the way, you try their cheeses, which have been cave aged for 12 months, cloth bound. So the outside of that cheese, the rind is all pitted and gnarly, and the mold has grown and been brushed off. But it's grown on the outside of the cloth. So once you clean the cloth, take the cloth off, then the cheese underneath is safe. It's just a completely different flavor profile. It's like saying, you've got a bicycle and you've got a Learjet. They will both eventually get you where you're going to go, but one of them's going to be a lot faster and a lot more comfortable. For me, good cheese is the Learjet.
Oh, so like a good cheddar still has a rind and mold on it? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that not part of the process here when we get cheese made, or is it just cut and prepared?
Artisan cheese in this side of the country is pretty rare. We have a couple of cheesemakers in the Lower Mainland, and that's about it, But having said that, Canada, on the eastern side, has award-winning cheeses. For the last 2 years, the American Cheese Society judging and competition has been won by the same guy twice.
Oh.
Took first, both
Wow.
times. Different cheese. So he's not like really, really good at one cheese. He's really, really good at all cheeses. So
Wow.
this year was Alfred Lemonnier from Fromagerie La Station in Quebec, I believe. And last year they won as well. The Americans don't love giving us first place in anything, especially, this year. Tensions have been high across the border. So we took third and first last year and this year, and I was privileged to be there both times.
Nice. Now, one of the things you also said, you have a student who learned from you. Now, this student went on and ended up at a competition that you were judging.
Yep.
So how do you feel about that as being...
I was so proud of him. Super excited for him. The cheese that he makes is very visually identifiable. So it's kind of... He was in a category adjacent to the category I was judging, so I wasn't originally judging his cheese. He then ended up in the super jury, so I had to recuse myself from judging that cheese because I know full well who makes that cheese and I want him to win. I want to give him the super gold, because he's a friend of mine and he deserves it. And I know that he's like a one-man band who set up his creamery, excuse me, in a garage. He's had this garage completely refitted. So it's stainless steel, certifiable kitchen, and he makes all the cheeses by hand.
Wow.
So I wanted him to win-win. I didn't actually tell him I knew, but I didn't tell him because we went to the awards dinner together. And I knew he'd gotten a gold. I knew he'd gotten super gold, and that he was in the super jury. And I knew he didn't win. But I didn't tell him that he won Best Blue in the show. And his jaw hit the ground. It was brilliant. It was a fabulous moment.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Okay, so if he's making a blue cheese that is so good, why aren't we just getting rid of all the other blue cheeses out there and just saying, create this?
Because you like your car, I like my car. If we got rid of all of the cars that weren't my car, you wouldn't have the car that you want. You would only have the car that I want.
Okay. I
So
get it.
we could get rid of all of the blue cheeses except for Matt's cheese. I could live with that, frankly, but it would leave no choice. You know, some people like a strong blue, some people like a mild blue, some people don't like blue at all. So the more variety you can have, the more cheese, the better, in my opinion. And cheeses are going extinct. You know, there are cheese producers going out of business all the time. There are people who get too old for this because it's a physically demanding job.
Oh.
You know, if you're making cheese in a pot on a stove, that's fine. If you're making cheese commercially, you've got 50,000 litres. This thing is like a giant bathtub, and you have to get to the bottom of it. And that involves literally physically climbing into the vat and using a shovel to move the curds around. You know, it is a physically demanding job if you're doing this commercially.
Oh,
So it's not an old person's game.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense then. I was wondering that about the cheese because you said we've been at it for 9,000 years, and then you're talking about a competition where people are like introducing new cheeses, like, and you've created a new cheese, and other people are coming up with their own spins on it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe how many varieties there must be then.
Yeah, there's like 4,000 different types of cheese.
Wow.
But that could be, cheddar is not a protected name. West Country cheddar is a protected name. It has to come from one of 3 counties in the west of England. But cheddar can be made anywhere. Anyone can make a cheese and call it cheddar. There is a specific process that you're supposed to go through, the cheddar ring. That is a process. And that's what makes a cheddar. But there are several other cheeses which are cheddared that aren't cheddar. So, top of my head, what have we got? Gloucester. Cotswolds, several cheeses from the Cotswolds are cheddared, but they aren't cheddar. So specific, like Wensleydale, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Go through the same process, but they don't have the same outcome.
Okay, so something along the process changes it and it branches off into like a different style. of
It's
cheese.
times and temps and the culture that you use and how long you allow the culture to ripen for. So you sit the culture for 45 minutes, you get an entirely different result than if you sit the culture for an hour and 10.
Really?
You get an entirely different result.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so that explains browsing your Facebook page and your group there, Learn to Make Cheese, and somebody saying, "Hey Tracey, my cheese is pink," and you say, "Don't eat that."
Yeah.
What do you think happened there?
There are 2 options. If it's pink, there are 2 options. Either it's Cryptosporidia, which is the pink mold you might find in the grout around your shower if you don't clean your shower very well. It's a bacteria. It's not particularly nice. You don't want to eat that. It will make you sick. Or they used pink Himalayan salt when they were salting the cheese, and that has migrated to the surface because there are impurities in pink Himalayan salt, ergo it's pink. And that can cause some discoloration and some mold growth that you're like, not sure if that's right.
Oh, so the type of salt can change it as well, just because of the makeup of it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd advise people to avoid Himalayan salt,
Yeah.
just because it makes my job harder. If you come back to me in 3 months and you can't remember if you used white salt or the hipster stuff, I can't tell you if that cheese is safe to eat or not.
Oh, yeah. And then if cheese has bubbles, holes in it, and you don't know if they
Bubbles
should
are
be there.
generally a problem, yeah. It's difficult because I run this great big group and we have people posting a picture of a cheese and they give very little information, and you're supposed to know by looking at a picture what they did 3 months ago when they can't even remember. You know, it helps if I know if it's raw milk or if it's pasteurized, homogenized. It helps if I know which culture, because some cultures do cause holes. You know, we have Swiss cheese, it has a culture in it so that it comes out with holes in it. That's on purpose. So some of the culture blends do have different strains of bacteria that would cause gas. So if I know that, then I can help the customer and say, look, this is what you used. It's perfectly fine. It should have holes. Or, I don't think that one's right. There are some things which are obvious. If you get coliform in a cheese, it's lots of tiny, tiny holes, like a kitchen sponge. If you find that in a cheese, you don't want to eat that because it's got fecal matter in it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not nice. Don't
Yeah.
eat that. If you're on day 2 to 4 and you get lots of big holes, like oval, round, shiny, that's probably yeast. Now, we use yeast all the time, beer making, bread making, you know, we have yeast all over our hands, at all our skin, all the time. I don't know which kind of yeast got into your cheese when you were making it, so I don't know if it's safe to eat. I'm going to tell you to err on the side of caution. Now, does this mean I'm telling people to throw away cheese, which might actually be perfectly edible? Oh, yes. Happens quite a lot. But I would rather do that than say, no, that looks fine, you can eat that, and have someone get sick.
Yeah.
You know, especially on the internet.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah. Especially when you're the teacher, you're the one kind of they're posting there because they know that you have a level of knowledge that...
I do now, yeah. I mean, when I first started in the group, I knew nothing about cheese. I learned everything from my mentor. I then went to 6 different universities and colleges. You know, I'm not just an internet cheesemaker. But yeah, initially, that's where I got my recipes from, the internet. And some of the information on the internet is really, really bad.
Oh, no.
More so now we have AI messing with everything. You know, you can type into AI, chat, GPT, whatever, how do I make double Gloucester cheese? And it will scrape the internet and come up with a reasonable approximation of a recipe that could be followed if you know how to make cheese. If you don't know how to make cheese, it will miss out things like sanitize your pot before use, you know, use freeze-dried culture effectively, and this is how. It doesn't include those things because it's not a person, so it's not intuitive. It can't think, what am I teaching this person? What do they know already? What's their level of understanding? Yeah, not a big fan of AI.
Yeah, I know that. I'm aware. What are some of the horror stories you've heard of from people making cheese? Have there been any like...
Oh, yeah. From people taking a photograph of their cheese and dropping their phone in the pot.
Oh, no.
And then, after pulling their phone out of the pot, asking if they should continue with that cheese. And I'm like...
No contamination there.
Have you ever used your phone in the bathroom? When did you last sanitize your phone? Like, when did you last submerge your phone in sanitizing fluid? Never.
Yeah.
Don't. No. Throw that away now.
Yeah.
There are some seriously dodgy sources of information out there. There was a book in the late 80s by a person who knows what she's doing. She's very, very good at cheese making. She wrote a great book. The 3rd edition came out. There was a typo in one of the recipes, and it diminished the amount of culture drastically. Now, this was an error, and as soon as she was made aware, she put out an edit and fixed the problem. But the book was already out there, and she was well enough known that enough copies of it are out there. And then internet, YouTube stars are picking this book up and thinking, well, I know that this person is a trusted source of information. I'm going to make a copy of her recipe, put it out there as a video, thus further disseminating this bad information. So anytime somebody makes a Gouda in my group and they have bubbles in it, first thing I ask them is, where did you get the recipe? Whose is the recipe? Because if it didn't come from one of 3 sources, which is me, cheesemaking.com, and Lisa Peterson, if it didn't come from one of those 3 people, I need to check that recipe because I don't automatically trust it.
Right.
Yeah. There are some people out there who are really, really out there. You know, people who stir their cheese with their hands. You know, you watch them wash their hands at the beginning of the video, but they wash their hands. They didn't wash up to here.
Yeah.
And they're reaching into the bottom of their pot and they're telling you feel the cheese. You get a much better cheese outcome if you know what the cheese feels like. Yes, that is true. But I have a ladle. I can ladle some of the curds out. I can mess with the curds, and then I can discard them.
Yeah.
I don't put them back in the pot. I always tell people, look under their fingernails. If somebody's on a YouTube video and they're trying to teach you how to make something that you're supposed to eat, something as well that's a high-risk food, because dairy is high risk, it's considered high risk. And you're keeping it out of cold chain for a period of time while you're making the cheese, while you're pressing the cheese. You should be brining it at cave temperatures, which is around 11 to 13 C, but that's still within the danger zone for food safety.
Wow.
And you're storing that cheese within the danger zone for its entire life until you go to eat it. So if you don't start with a safe cheese, you're hooped. You're not going to have a safe cheese at the end. You know, you're introducing bacteria, and you're then giving the bacteria perfect opportunities to grow. They've got food, they've got the right temperature, they can move around because there's still moisture left in that cheese. You know, it's frightening when you think about just how dodgy cheese could be if you don't get the pH in the right place and you don't take out enough of the water. Those are the two things you have to do right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's because it's all bacteria, right?
Yeah.
It's all, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What are some of your favorite cheeses?
My best favorite ever is Le Gruyere AOP 18-month cave aged. And
Okay.
that...
Might have to say that one more time.
Yeah, you might know it as Gruyere.
Yeah, I'm actually familiar with that name, and I really like it too.
Yeah, it's trademarked as Le Gruyere AOP, which is Appellation Origine Protégée. I'm butchering the Swiss there, my apologies, but it basically means it's a protected designation of origin cheese. So it can only be made in a certain place, and there are specific rules. Gruyere, for instance, the cow has to be milked within 12.3 miles of where the creamery is going to make that cheese. And it has to be aged in a certain set of caves for a certain period of time. It has to be raw milk. It has to be animal, rennet, not vegetarian. Some cheeses are not vegetarian because they use an animal enzyme to coagulate them. So if the cheeses have letters after their name, they're less likely to be vegetarian, but they're more likely to be good.
Good.
Yeah, I always tell people if you're looking for a good cheese to buy in a store, it's like when you're picking a lawyer, get one with letters after their name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gruyere, I don't know, I can't pronounce a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a few cheeses that I really like. Edam?
Yeah.
That's another nice one that I like just because it's so soft and
Snackable.
snackable, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you snack on cheese, are you just grabbing like one piece of cheese and eating it, or do you like cut up a bunch of different kinds and give yourself a
It
little?
depends. If I'm having a cheese board, then yes, I'll have a cheese board. If I'm standing and looking in the fridge trying to decide what I want to make to dinner tonight and I'm snacking on cheese while I'm there, then I have about 50 different varieties of cheese in my fridge at the moment.
What?
Yeah. Well, I travel for work and it's deductible if I buy cheese.
Okay.
So, you know, and I'm studying still, so I have a lot of different types of cheese on the go all at the same time. So yeah, I will grab a piece of something and then cut a chunk off, depending on if it's a slicer or a wedger or, you know.
Do any of them kind of help you decide what you're going to do for dinner? Like if you're unable to...
If I can't decide what I'm doing for dinner, I'm having cheese.
Are you?
I'll just do a cheese board. Yeah.
Yeah. Really? Mm-hmm. Just for yourself? Like.
Well, no, I mean, I'll let my husband have some as well. I still like
Yeah,
him,
well,
you know.
yeah.
But yeah, we're keto, so cheese is fine on my diet. I can eat as much cheese as I like.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Yeah, we like having cheese boards at home too. We actually talked about having one for dinner the other night. And yeah, just throw in some crackers. And one of the things that you did with your cheese boards is you add grapes and, you know, chocolate covered raisins and pumpkin seeds and stuff like that. Like a lot of different things that give you a variety while you're eating the cheese. And I find that those are really nice to kind of to have something like that in between the different flavors.
Palate cleanser. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also texturally. If you're just eating cheese, and I know this from competition, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've got cheese fatigue now. This is just, I'm done with the creamy, soft, you know, the smooth. I want something salty. I want something pointy. I want something that's going to crunch. I might even use a piece of celery at that point, although that's fairly extreme for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not a big fan.
Yeah. Okay, we've been talking for an hour already.
Yeah, I do that.
Time has blown past. If people want to learn to make cheese, if they want to make cheese at home, if they're watching this show right now and they haven't even considered making it themselves, what should their first steps be?
I would suggest join Learn to Make Cheese on Facebook and just look at what people are posting, because within 2 or 3 days, you'll get a pretty good understanding of what most people are doing wrong. And you start on the right foot, then you'll be fine. So we have a frequently asked questions, which nobody ever reads until they've made one of the problems happen for themselves that's in the frequently asked questions, and they could have avoided it. Yeah. So I tend to send people, go and read the FAQ. It'll take you 20 minutes or so. Get a cup of tea first and just sit down and have a quick read. If you've got any questions, hit me up. We'll sort you out.
Yeah.
Other than that, go to a class. Go to your local cheese shop and ask them if they can tell you more about the cheese. If you have a cheese shop nearby that has someone behind the counter that's got CCP designation, which I have, it means they've got at least 4,000 hours in the business and they've passed an exam which is rigorously defended. It's been compared to the bar exam for lawyers. It is, yeah, the exam is very, very rigorously checked and rechecked and normalized, and they have all of these external processes to check that the exam is as difficult this year as it was last year, but not much harder, So yeah, if you find somebody that says they're an ACS CCP, it means they know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And if they want to make cheese at home, you've got a supply shop?
Yes, I have an online store. I ship everywhere except America, unfortunately. Yeah, you can get the stuff that you need to make cheese relatively cheaply. I have beginner kits starting at $50, and that will make 25 pounds of cheese. If you feel like you might need a bit more hand-holding, I have a YouTube channel. There are a couple of recipes on there. I'm working on some more. And you can also come along to one of my classes. They'll be back in January.
Excellent. Well, and I can say from myself, I made a very successful cheese after doing your course, and it was delicious. And I was the guy who couldn't wait the whole 2 or 3 days, and I was eating it ahead of time, and I was trying to melt my feta onto my poutine, but it didn't work. But yeah, it was delicious. I loved it, and I haven't taken that next step to try and make a cheddar or anything other like fancier than that. But yeah, maybe one day I'll think about it. I find it so much easier to just go to the grocery store, grab a couple different cheeses, cut them into nice fun shapes, and then serve them with the family. So.
And if that's what makes you happy, then go with that. As long as you're enjoying cheese, then I've done my job.
Yeah, and you definitely have. I love cheese now. Yeah, I can't even eat it just as a normal slice anymore. I have to make it squiggly.
It's fun. I mean, we teach children to eat with their eyes first. People, if it's not presentable, if it's not put in front of you in a way that looks nice, you're instantly going to be less attracted to it to eat it. So yeah, if you're putting out some cheese, cut some of it with a wibbly wobbly knife, because it makes it visually slightly different.
Yeah, and helps you identify which ones are which.
It does help if you've got like 4 or 5 different cheeses on a board and they're all of a specific type. I've done a thing called a vertical tasting, which is when you buy a cheese from the same place, the same manufacturer, at different ages. So you buy a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old of the same cheese, and you try them in all together, and it will blow your mind. That you try the first one and it's great, that's nice cheese, that's good. You try the second one and you're like, something that was just a hint in this cheese is now the star of the show, but there's a hint of something else. And then you try the third one, it's like, wow, this is like an orchestra. All of these instruments are playing together now. I've got all of these different flavor profiles. So yeah, it not necessarily always a case the older the cheese, the better, but in most cases.
That just made me think of something. And I got one last question. I bought a smoker this year. Have you smoked cheese?
Yeah, it's really hard to light.
It's hard to light the cheese?
No, so you're going to want to cold smoke. So if you've got a smoker, you get the little box of the chips. If you put that there, it will smoke, but it will also heat up. So you then need a cookie tray with ice cubes on it. Put that above the heat source, but below the cheese. So the smoke can get through, but the heat won't.
And it cools the smoke as it Yeah. And you've done that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Other thing is, I had a barbecue that was dead. It was done. So I gutted that. I lined the inside with tin foil, and then I put the smoker box over here, and I had the cheeses all over here on a rack. There was no real heat. You know, I put an ice tray there as well. There was no real heat. So that kind of, and that smoked out really quite well.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Well, Tracey, awesome chatting with you again, as usual. And good luck in the future.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay.